Happy Father's Day. I know the Lord kind of laid a message on my heart about being a refuge, and the Hebrew translation is Jehovah Makaseh. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not exactly sure, but in this life we're put into situations where we do not know the outcome or the or what is expected, what we expect to happen. We stress about all these things that happen, or much worse, the things that might happen. Some of us seem to be in a state of perpetual worry. Is this a healthy way to live? How can we be sure everything is going to be okay? And these times we really find out where our refuge is and where we need to run when we do stress about these things. And this past week we went on vacation to Charleston. We had a nice time of relaxation and rest, and I think everybody enjoyed themselves, and we got to enjoy some of the historical sites and the beach and everything. But 150 years ago or so, it wasn't like that. If you think back, this was the main focus of the Civil War at that time when it started. The city was under bombardment from cannons and mortars and ships, and from ships and forts along the perimeter of the bay for about 567 days continuously. The city was under siege. Can you imagine the stress of everyday living if you were still living? And the people did live in Charleston at that time. They stayed there. So just imagine waking up wondering if there's going to be a mortar flying through your walls, or anything. I mean, it would be the epitome of stress, I believe. How would we be able to live in these conditions if we were forced to? We in America are in a unique position in the world. We do not have to worry about what many people had to contend with in the past. Many of us have become complacent. We expect our plans to flow the way we want them to for the most part. When they don't work out, we make an inconvenient adjustment. It's normally just that, it's inconvenience. It's nothing that's a hardship. A lot of times, well, you don't have Diet Coke, we got to get a Coke Zero. It's something as small as that, and it's an inconvenience to us, but that's what we have to sacrifice sometimes, in air quotes. But usually this is not a life-threatening adjustment in our modern time in America. It usually consists of having to put up with a different type of bread, or going to the grocery store and being out of something that we always are normally buying, that they're out of. But there's a new thing that we have to deal with today. The threat is referred to as terrorism. While this new threat is real and gaining ground in our lives as a disruption, we still have it good in comparison to the rest of the world. Some of these places you cannot go to the grocery store to buy bread. You cannot, without being under constant threat of death from a terrorist attack. Some of these same places count it a crime for Christians to gather in a church. Even identifying as a follower of Christ could get you beheaded. In America, we loosely throw this Christian affiliation around. Identifying with anything has little or no consequence. So therefore, we have people in this and other countries like ours identifying as more and more crazy and demonic things in an environment where you're just surviving, not surviving the day, and that is your goal, to survive through the day, to get through the day and to get to the next day. We have no knowledge of that. We get to the next day without much hardship, really. And but you would not have stories like you see in the news with Bruce Jenner and things like this. If your life depended on the things that you were identified with, you would take it more seriously. And here's the deceptive part of this situation. What you identify with does matter. It is a spiritual life or death matter, even though we can't see it. We don't see the physical life or death consequences in this country is a spiritual life and death matter. The enemy loves complacent mindsets. He can get people so far off the path that is straight and narrow that they have no clue what truth is anymore. The church thrives in persecution because Christ is worth dying for. Turn to Philippians 1, verse 21. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Paul knew this truth. He was persecuted for Christ and still chose to live and die for him. What then? Should we ask for persecution? Is that how we grow? Just to seek trouble, to seek conflict? I don't think so. In John chapter 15, John chapter 15, verse 18. If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love his own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Remember the word that I said unto you. The servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me. If I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin, but now they have no cloak for their sin. He that hateth me hateth my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which none other man did, they had not sinned. But now have they both seen and hated both me and my Father. But this cometh to pass, that the word might be fulfilled, that it is written in their law, they hated me without a cause. So should we go looking for persecution? Should we look for trouble? Is that something that would help us grow? No, we shouldn't go looking for trouble. We should, however, be focused on Christ and his promises. One of these promises is that the world will hate followers of Christ as it hated him. So we can use that as a test. If we're going with the flow, if everyone is happy with what we're doing, then we need to need to turn that judgment on ourselves and say, are you really standing for Christ? Are you walking for Christ? As modern American citizens, we live comfortable Christian lives. We don't worry about a whole lot when it comes to going to church or publicly proclaiming that we are Christians. What if tomorrow it became illegal to identify with Christ in this country? It is far-fetched that it would happen so drastically. However, there are some communities, especially in Michigan and in some of the other states, that are actively promoting the thought of implementing some aspects of Sharia law. I'm not an expert on Sharia law, but it's my understanding that Sharia law does not treat those of the Christian or Jewish faith so well. So even though we are just seeing the beginnings of this possibly happening, we know as Christians that more is to come. Jesus said it himself, we will be persecuted for him. So how are we going to deal with this persecution? Will we remain true to our identification as a Christian? Will we forsake the one that we say that he would follow until death? What will be our decision when the sword is at our neck or the gun is at our head? When there is real ramifications associated with decisions, what will be our cry? And in other countries, you see this happening today. In the Middle East, all throughout the Middle East, this is happening today. People who identify as Christians are losing their lives because they choose not to turn. And in all the stories that I've seen, they've been given opportunities to renounce Christ and turn to Allah or the Muslim faith. And those need to speak louder. We don't hear whole lot about the testimony of the people over there, and they're losing their lives, and those need to speak louder to us here, where we sit in a comfortable chair and we just relax, and we don't think much about it. We say we're Christian, but are we? What do we show? How do we follow through with that? What is in our lives? What are we acting out? In Daniel chapter 3, verse 8, wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said unto the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake, and commanded that they should heat the furnace 17 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command it was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. And Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth, and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth out of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their heads singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies that they may not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So that story is a perfect example of finding your refuge in Christ. And those fiery furnaces that we face, that they differ in extremes, but I mean, you can run into something just simple every day, and it can seem like such a hard thing to get around, and such a difficult thing to go through. And in those times, we just need to cry out to Jesus, cry out to Christ that He would be our refuge in those times. And while we were down in Charleston, the last day that we were down there, that the shooting happened at the church, and just like you were saying yesterday, the amount of forgiveness that was being poured out, and some of the news stories that we saw, that Lauren and I were watching, that the people were trying to get that message out, that it wasn't racial, it wasn't they didn't want rioting, they didn't want chaos, they wanted forgiveness, they wanted to show their forgiveness and show that they were going to stand in this time and not fall to the what the devil would want, chaos and hate, and that did speak a lot to me, because a lot of times in larger cities like that, you don't see that reaction. You see the opposite reaction, but it was quite amazing to see that. And that's pretty much all I have on the refuge topic. It is Father's Day, and to all the fathers, I just want to say congratulations and have a happy Father's Day. My brother's a new dad, so this is his first Father's Day, and so I'm sure he's taking in the day. But me personally, it's kind of a tough day. It's a difficult day, and on the way up, we were listening to some music on the way to McMinnville this morning, and I don't know why it caught my ear, but there's a song by Third Day, Cry Out to Jesus. In the first stanza, it starts out in the very first of the song: to everyone who's lost someone they love long before it was their time, you feel like the days you had were not enough when you said goodbye. And to all the people with burdens and pains keeping you back from your life, you believe that there's nothing and there is no one who can make it right. There is a hope for the helpless, rest for the weary, and love for the broken hearts. There is grace and forgiveness, mercy and healing. He'll meet you wherever you are. Cry out to Jesus. And for some reason, it really spoke to me this morning, and quickly, I was just going to share a dream that I had the other day. Friday, it was the day after we got back. I actually took an afternoon nap for about 4 hours, if you can call that a nap. But during that nap, it was my dreams are kind of it's like a sharp, like a hard scene in a movie. It just switches from here to there to here, and it's difficult to kind of follow sometimes, but this dream, it shook me. It was a nice dream, and I think that sometimes Lord speaks to us in different ways, and He can speak to us in dreams and in different things, and I know that in this dream, starting out, it was me, Lauren, and my family, Stephen and Kevin and my mom. We were all spending time together down in Tullahoma. I don't remember what we were doing, um, but I had to go into work. My boss called me, and this is typical of my dreams. It seems like work influences all of it, but I ended up going into work, and during the middle of working, I saw this navy uniform, like a navy blue uniform, and I knew it exactly. As soon as I saw it, it was my dad's uniform that he worked in Smyrna. He worked at a factory up there, and and I remember seeing that, and I was thinking, well, how can he be here, helping me, because I just, I didn't see the possibility of it, but after we got done working, I didn't question it. I just kept on going. And in dreams, you just don't question anything. Anything happens. But after we got done working, I was sitting on the side of a hill, and everybody else was sitting down at the bottom of the hill around a tree. My dad was sitting up the hill a little bit, a little ways up the hill by himself, and it looked like storm clouds rolling in, and I just remember seeing these two flashes of light, and I thought, there's a tornado down there tearing up some transformers or power lines or something. These flashes of light stayed there and then started moving. And one shot up into the sky, and the other one flew over the hilltop. And as soon as it flew over the hilltop, my dad disappeared. And I remember feeling in that moment, I felt that sinking feeling, that I felt that day that everything happened. I thought, we never got to say goodbye. We never, we miss him. And I just remember saying, I love you. And then I thought, he never got to tell his family that he loved him. And about that time, a light come flying back over my head, and it said, I love you. And I thought, that is a message that I need to take, as a comfort, as a peaceful thing. And that's the way I decided to take it. So I just thought it was an interesting dream to have right before Father's Day, and it just seemed, it calmed my spirit about it a little bit. So just wanted to share that.